Hi.
Hello again.
Hello.
Back in the day, in the 90s, before Max came along, when we were working in a ministry called Apologia, and before that CRI, the Christian Research Institute. That was the first 10 years of our ministry. And in those days, our ministry was basically limited to Southern Ontario. And we were producing tracts and booklets, and you will have experienced some of those tracts and booklets now in PDF form, because those are the things we have used to make a lot of the Jehovah's Witness video material.
So you'll see the logo, Apologia, at the top of a lot of them.
Yeah, and in that period of about 5 years, between 1994 and 1999, when we were Apologia, we also did quite a bit of TV documentary. And that TV documentary material, the notoriety we got from it across Canada, and I think the videos, some of them were shown overseas as well, in Australia and a couple of
We
other
did
places.
some radio programs too.
And a lot of the publicity that came from that generated response, phone calls. Of course, there was no internet, so we were. It seems like primeval world now, but there was no internet, so phone calls came in, and I think a few written correspondences as well, and that was about the extent of it. And a lot of in-office conversations happened because, indirectly or directly, because of those TV shows. It did generate a lot of material in the way of finally PDFs, but at the same time, I believe that the initiative or the impetus that came from that caused us to think in terms of, boy, we've lost a lot, emotionally at least, in the last decade, because now we were feeling the pain of other people in similar situations across Canada. So we had a bulletin in those days. And the bulletin was the Apologia newsletter. It was going out more or less every month. And in the month after I think it was one of those TV shows, we published the first page, and the first page had the headline, J.W. Payne, Coast to Coast.
Yeah, that's right.
But we couldn't have anticipated.
No, we had no idea at the time that the things we were reading and the things that we were writing and all those things we could later reintroduce in the videos. So now they can. I think the benefit was that every time we've gone back into ministry, it makes that pain a little fresh again.
Yeah.
You know, not as fresh as somebody who's just out, but it helps us to empathize and relate to it again. You remember, it brings it back to memory.
We couldn't have anticipated either the numbers. Back then we were happy to have a few dozen people or a few hundred people at the most getting the benefit of our experience and their joint experience in like experiences.
Now you're able to reach the same number of people or more every day.
And
now it's thousands,
And even the information in those things, you know, we haven't been using them that often up till the YouTube
when
channel.
Max came along.
Yeah, once Max came along, those things were there, and when we were in the occasional times when we were asked to do something about witness ministry, we could use them. But I was amazed at how quickly it all comes right flooding back. I thought I was going to have to do like major brush up thinking and remembering, but it just sort of all comes right back to you.
Yeah.
The information. Yeah. And so I think it does tell us something about God. Because now looking back at our history, I see it all as preparation. All as God preparing you to use your experience and your knowledge.
And your trauma.
Yeah,
the
in
trauma,
a positive
the first
way.
part.
That's right.
And the experience that comes after it. And then
getting out of it, getting new understanding. All that can be now used in a very positive way. Well, that's God preparing you.
And you can't see it in advance.
No, during it you can't see it.
Here we are 20 years later, and as we did in the last video, we thought about Psalm 130. Through the eyes of John Owen, it became almost the national anthem of Puritanism in Great Britain, and the suffering saints of the Reformation period and the subsequent 150 years after that. These psalms that were originally written in a Jewish setting for the Jewish people who were suffering became the songbook and the hymn book for the church.
Yeah.
Not just the Puritan church, but the Methodist church 100 years later, when they were shoved out of the Anglican church in the Church of England.
Because when people experience pain, no matter what is generating it, it's the same. So it should make us more empathetic and more aware and noticing pain in community if you've gone through pain.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the great texts about pain is John 16, where John records the words of Christ that last night when the disciples were saying, "Where are you going?" And surely we can go with you. And Christ has to tell them, "Where I'm going, you will come afterwards." And then there's these amazing words in John 16, starting at verse 20 to 22. Max, if you would.
Most assuredly I say to you, that you will weep and lament, but the world will rejoice. And you will be sorrowful, but your sorrow will be turned into joy. A woman, when she is in labor, has sorrow, because her hour has come. But as soon as she has given birth to the child, she no longer remembers the anguish, for joy that a man has been born into the world. Therefore you now have sorrow, and I will see you again, and your heart will rejoice, and your joy no one will take from you.
Wow. So I think I've never been a mother, so I can't empathize.
It's true.
But
Shortly after you were born, we wanted another.
I've only been the
It's true.
subject of mothering.
But when you're in the pain, you can think of nothing but the pain, apparently.
Yes.
Makes
That's
sense.
true.
But when the pain is over, something wonderful has happened.
Yeah.
And if we keep that in mind, it's an analogy, as Christ himself uses it, for the human condition, for not just Jews, but for all believers in the true God. Truth will always be persecuted. So, yes, if believers get their mind around that, then it'll save us a lot of wear and tear on our psyches, because we will know that the trials and the tribulations are temporal, they're temporary. And as Psalm 130 said, out of the depths I called, one day we will be redeemed from our infirmities, our persecutions, and our iniquities, our own problems that are internal to us, not external. And yet, what's the fruit of suffering? And well, it starts with empathy, especially when you share your suffering with others and they share theirs with you.
Yeah.
Empathy,
That
and
brings
beyond that, healing, and then community, the church.
And it brings joy.
Joy.
Because when you feel that someone understands and can relate, and you can relate to them, and it's affirming to that person. It makes them just feel comfort.
Yeah.
You know, you feel comfort in community, and that's why it's so important that you do find a community, find people that you can relate to and talk to and share with.
Yeah, even if the comfort at first is only in sorrow and joint sorrow, community sorrow.
Yeah.
But it's not just that, of course, in the Church of Jesus Christ. This joy that comes after, the joy that comes in the morning, is what we have to keep in mind. That is something more than just happiness.
Yeah.
And it does come with the Spirit of God, which is given in the New Testament in community, not to individuals. Although we can have that joy as individuals, it's a takeaway really from effective community. So we would urge everyone, if you haven't already found Christian community, make it one of your goals. I don't feel we had satisfactory Christian life until we started attending church and sharing, yes, the bad stuff as well as the good with others. Next time, when we start recording again, we won't have this backdrop. Hopefully we'll have bookshelves behind us again, right?
Yet again.
So if you see a few videos where the bookshelves have magically reappeared in the next few days or a couple of weeks, it'll only because of the transition. We'll intersperse this set of videos, this topic, with the other stuff, which was actually
Previously
recorded
recorded.
before.
And then we'll be having Niagara Falls in the back. No, we'll have books in the
Not quite.
background, but we'll be in Niagara Falls.
Yeah. So we'll see you in Niagara.
Yes.
Bye for now.
Bye
Bye.
for now.